Hello and welcome to the first annual Connells Combat Awards show. This year was a crazy year for fights. Just to let you guys know, my award show is a little bit different from the MMA awards shows that you're used to, the combat sports awards shows, where they have Fighter of the Year, Fight of the Year, things like that. I go with a different kind of award structure, and I'm staying really still because I don't want anything to get knocked over, because if I move 1 inch, my monitor unplugs and then everything fails and I gotta restart. So let's not do that. But as I was saying, my awards show is going to be a little bit different from those that you may be accustomed to. So without further ado, let's just get straight into my awards. As you can see there, my awards go: Best Jab, Best Cross, Best Lead Hook, Best Uppercut, Best Front Leg Kick, Best Back Leg Kick, Best Knee, and Best Spinning Shit. So you may be wondering, like, the parameters on which these awards are given and judged. So these are single shots. These aren't a performance where a guy uses a jab really well through 5 rounds. This is one punch. My criteria on which ones I give the awards to is the timing of it, maybe the setup of it, if they had set up the move. Stakes have a little bit to do with it in terms of if it's a title fight or a #1 contender, things like that, because that just kind of ups the skill of it. Because if you're just knocking out some rando with a cool little move, it's going to be a little easier than knocking out one of the best fighters in the world with that same move. So that gets partially taken into play. And it doesn't have to always be a knockout. Of course, a knockout or a knockdown will definitely help its score, because if you get one of those, that shows how much more effective the strike was, because you did knock them down or knock them out. I'm sure there'll be ones in the future where it's not a clean knockout, because best jab, there's not a lot of jab knockouts or knockdowns. But if the timing and the setup is really well, like say someone feints a kick and they get a reaction and then they jab, things like that. So we're going to go through all these awards, starting with Best Jab. So the Best Jab of this year, before I tell you who my award goes to, I want to mention some others that come to mind. Kamaru Usman used a really good jab in the Gilbert Burns fight, and he landed multiple from both stances that I could have picked in terms of the timing of it. Obviously the stakes were high, and he dropped him with that final one out of southpaw, I believe. So that's one that comes to mind. Rob Font used an amazing jab against Cody Garbrandt. Could have picked one of those out. But yeah, the jab award I feel like will be a weird one. Good jabbing performances happen a lot. And picking out like one jab, like the one that is the best jab out of the bunch, will be kind of like, it'll be hard to pick the best jab all year, the best singular jab. But in my opinion, the best jab this year was Brandon Moreno's jab, boom, against Deiveson Figueiredo. Now this jab was just perfectly timed as Figueiredo wound up for a big left hook. Moreno just piped it in there. No telegraph, no forcing of the punch, just straight down the pipe, and just surprised Figueiredo and dropped him, and was the start to a amazing title win for Brandon Moreno as they rematch in just 2 weeks. And then we go to the Best Cross of the year. Obviously cross being your backhand. If you're a southpaw, it's your back, like your left hand. Orthodox, your right hand. To be honest, this award was pretty easy for me to pick, but I want to come up with some other nomination. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of any because my vision is fogged by this cross. I think you guys could have all guessed it. The Best Cross of the year goes to Kamaru Usman against Jorge Masvidal. And this punch obviously is about as clean as you can land a punch on anyone. And of course, who Usman did it to, Masvidal being a guy who is super durable, never been knocked out like that in the UFC, and only been caught, like TKO'd once before that in his MMA career, I believe. And the way that he did it, the pulling down with the lead hand and then coming right down the middle with the cross, is the same way that Jorge Masvidal got TKO'd in his only other TKO loss. So whether or not Whitman and Usman knew this and they were working this combo, I'm sure they were, because if that's just a coincidence that he did that exact same thing and it just worked, I think they knew that Jorge was susceptible to this exact combination, and he loved to throw the check left hook as he does like 2 seconds, or not 2 seconds, but like 5 seconds before he gets knocked out. And then he looks for it as Usman goes with that kind of parry, slapping lead hand into the cross. So I think that Usman and Whitman knew that Jorge was vulnerable for this, and they capitalized. Well, Usman capitalized. But yeah, that Kamaru Usman, Jorge Masvidal is my boom cross of the year. And then the best lead hook of the year. Now, initially when I was doing this, I was like, okay, the Alex Pereira lead hook in LFA is going to win, but that happened in 2020. It was between that Alex Pereira left hook in 2020 that wasn't even, like, I was going back and forth in my head before I eventually searched up, like, did this even happen in 2021? But that Alex Pereira left hook, it was between that and this beautiful left hook. There were some other good left hooks this year. Obviously, Justin Gaethje used a really nice left hook against Michael Chandler in that fight, never put him away. I'm sure there are way better ones than just the Canelo one. But this left hook, it can be a right hook too. I said lead hook. Dustin Poirier used a really nice lead hook against Conor McGregor when he would overextend on that left hand to tag him multiple times and to rock him before finishing him in their second fight, their first fight of 2021 back in January. So there were some good lead hooks, but this lead hook, the circumstances of the fight for the title, him being down in the first round, getting beaten up, and then coming back and landing the left hook 10 seconds into the round. It is Charles Oliveira's picture-perfect left hook against Michael Chandler. It is absolutely beautiful. The technique on it, as Joe loves to talk about, he's got his backhand up, and it's just short, crisp, no overextension into it. It's just perfect timing as Chandler is pulling back after throwing his right hand. And yeah, it's just a picture-perfect left hook. One of the most beautiful left hooks in MMA history. Although it wasn't a clean knockout, Charles Oliveira wins the first annual lead hook of the year. Okay, and then we go to the best uppercut of the year. This was another one where I was like, yeah, this one wins the best uppercut, and there's no debate. Cut the bullshit. Derek Lewis's uppercut against Curtis Blades, perfectly timing the level change of Curtis Blades. That was slightly telegraphed, but Blades was doing good on the feet, just staying at range, staying away from Lewis's power, and just kind of tagging him with low kicks and just not getting in Lewis's space. But when he did, and he slightly telegraphs the takedown, Lewis punishes him for it with a huge uppercut. And that uppercut right there basically made my YouTube channel what it is. That I made a video immediately after that knockout about Derek Lewis's, all of his knockouts. And that video's got near 600,000 views, and a lot of my subscribers come from that. So I feel almost obliged, or I feel like I owe it to Derek Lewis to give him this best uppercut. But obviously it was an amazingly timed uppercut on the wrestler Curtis Blades, and some suck it signs afterwards. Boom. And the severity of the knockout, that was a vicious knockout. Best uppercut of the year, Derek Lewis against Curtis Blades. And then the best front leg kick. Now, this might confuse a few people. Are you talking about like a front kick to the leg? Like, no. I'm talking any attack with the lead leg. And when I said best lead leg kick, then it sounds like I'm talking about kicking the opponent's lead leg. But that's not the case. I'm talking about a kick to the body, to the leg, to the head, anything. The best front leg kick using your front foot, and it can hit any target. The best kick off of that. Now, one that seems obvious probably for most people is Rose Namajunas' knockout against Weili Zhang in the first fight. Perfectly timed the step in, and it went under the guard in an odd way and just caught Weili, and that was an amazing knockout off the lead leg. But I've got something better, and if you haven't seen this yet, here we go. So this is in Cage Warriors 30, if I'm not mistaken. And this is, I forget his name, Justin Berry, I believe. And this is Justin Berry's first ever, I'm watching it, but I'll try to describe it for those listening. The first ever fight for Justin Berry. And he lands that's an inside crescent kick to the face of his opponent, who was also having his first fight, I believe. But he lands it in tight when Berry lands it in tight as his opponent is trying to wind up for a punch, and it just slips right under the guard. And I don't think I've ever seen anyone get knocked out by an inside crescent kick. They're largely ineffective, like karate type of things. But he lands it with the shin right under the chin as Herb Dean watches on, front row seat, and it's just a brutal knockout. And the creativity of it alone off of the lead leg gets my spot. This was just of course, not a lot of stakes on it, but the creativity and even the thought of throwing this is just awesome. I could watch that knockout all day. So yeah, obviously the Rose Namajunas one would be the favorite for this, but this one was a little more impressive to me. It was absolutely insane. Oh, and wanted to mention, he had a second fight in December of this year, and he won that by a crescent kick too. It wasn't a clean knockout with the crescent kick, but he threw it, and it kind of like wobbled his opponent, and then he stepped in, right hook, and cleaned his clock, knocked him out cold. So yeah, keep an eye out for Justin Berry, and watch that damn inside crescent kick. Pretty sick. And then we go to the best back leg kick. Now this is obviously kicks that come from the back leg, out of southpaw or orthodox, front kicks, roundhouse kicks, question mark kicks, anything you want, as long as it's off of the back leg in your stance. So this one was one that I knew immediately. I'm sure obviously there are always good head kick KOs, but this head kick KO, the caliber of opponent it was against, and the weirdness of the timing on it, and when it's just such an unconventional spot to throw it, gives it my top spot, and it's Super Bond's head kick KO against Giorgio Petrosian. Now, if you guys don't know who Giorgio Petrosian is, this is one of the greatest kickboxers of all time. And he went on a long win streak. I want to say more than like a 30-fight win streak. And his record in kickboxing is just unbelievable. But Super Bond in this fight was pounding these right roundhouse kicks off of his back leg. And in this exchange, he throws it to the body, and Giorgio steps in and throws a left hand, and then Super Bond follows left hook, doesn't land, kind of grazes, and then as Giorgio is backing out of close range, because the punches got them into close range, and as Giorgio was just backing out, Super Bond throws another kick off the back leg, roundhouse, and Petrosian thinks it's going to the body, and he slightly lowers his elbow, and it just clips him so clean right on the jaw and knocks him out so bad. Before he even lands, he's absolutely out cold. And it's just a vicious knockout, and the timing and creativity to throw it in that instance gives it my back leg KO of the year. That was just a nutty knockout. And then we go on to best knee of the year, and this one was pretty obvious for me as well. Adriano Moraes had a good knee that he landed on the ground against Demetrius Johnson and won, but it pales in comparison to the spectacularity, if that's even a word, of this knockout by Corey Sandhagen over Frankie Edgar. One of the knockout of the year candidates, super early into the fight, and just times Frankie Edgar's step in and explodes off the floor and catches him about as clean as you can catch someone with a knee. And Frankie is susceptible to stuff out the middle like uppercuts and front kicks, and he was especially susceptible to this flying knee by Corey Sandhagen. And again, the viciousness of the knockout, the stakes of the fight. This is number 1 or number 2 contender fight. Both guys in the top 5, I think they were both ranked in the top 5, as Edgar was coming off of a win of Pedro Munoz. But yeah, this was just unbelievable timing by Sandhagen, athleticism, precision, all of the rest, and a vicious knockout of the legend Frankie Edgar, who also got front kicked in the face by Chito Vera later that year. Tough year for Frankie. And then we go to our final award. Yeah, final award is Best Spinning Shit. Now, some of you may think that Ignacio Bahamondes, with his spinning wheel kick over Danny Roberts, has this in the bag, and that was an absolutely insane knockout. He was throwing them to the body, and then he came with the spinning wheel kick to the head. Obviously, that was amazing. But this knockout by Sergio Pettis against Kyoji Horiguchi had my jaw drop. And I've never screamed this loud watching a Bellator event. Kyoji Horiguchi is one of the best bantamweight, flyweight, whatever you want to call him, one of the best lower weight fighters in the world and in history, really. His style is so unorthodox, and he's been doing unbelievable in Ryzen, and he was the Bellator champion, and he was dominating this fight for 4 rounds, 4.5 rounds. I think the strikes were like 62 to 14 or something like that. For Horiguchi, his in and out style was giving Pettis so many problems. He couldn't deal with it. And then out of nowhere, this weird exchange where Pettis' right leg goes over Horiguchi in the clinch. Like, it was such a weird spot to throw it, the head kick. But then by throwing the head kick, it set him up perfectly as Horiguchi tried to exit with his hands down to throw a spinning back fist with his left hand and knocked him out cold. It's not even a head kick that he threw. He just kind of put his leg over. It was very odd, but then set him up perfectly for that spinning back fist. Kyoji goes out cold, and he holds back, Sergio Pettis does, on the hammer fist on the ground, so bonus points for that. Minimal brain damage. Well, not a lot of nothing minimal about the knockout, but to minimize it by not giving him that extra one on the ground. Shout out to Sergio Pettis. And this was for the bantamweight title. Kyoji was looking unbelievable, unstoppable, and Sergio Pettis basically lost the whole fight until he didn't, and he just knocked him out. So, yeah, that gets my spinning shit of the year. And that wraps up my slideshow. I want to say thank you for watching the first annual Connells Combat Awards. Maybe in the future this will be a little bit of a higher production thing that goes on, but I kind of like my rinky-dink throw it together thing I had going on. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully you enjoy the difference, like the different kind of style of my award show where it's just focusing on singular strikes. I kind of like it. If I'm just doing the best, if I'm giving my fighter of the year, who gives a shit, right? Want to bring something different to the awards. So yeah, doing my best. Thank you for watching. As I said, we're getting close to 30 minutes, so I'll let you guys dip. Connells Combat 2021 Awards, first annual, and see you in a week for the Cater versus Chikadze preview. Peace.